Hello everyone, my name is Adelanda and this is Solarpunking, where we discuss solarpunk ideology, things we can do in our communities to make them better, and ways to build the world that we want to live in. One of the more complex pieces of solarpunk ideology is how to manage the advancement of technology. The goal, in my opinion, isn't to prevent technological progress, but to ensure that there are some guardrails that would A, protect the environment and the community from harm, and B, conserve resources as much as possible. There's this idea that people from consumerist societies have that innovation would be choked and stifled if they had to consider anything but the profit margin when building something new. But there are plenty of examples where this is not the case. A quick Google search will return many sustainable projects out there guided by folks who are wary of the hanging sword of climate change, and so they're finding ways to scrub carbon from the atmosphere, repurpose plastic collected from oceans, making cleaner burning fuel from renewable plant-based sources, and creating more efficient ways to upcycle waste. It can be done, and is being done all over the world. The problem here is the U.S. economy depends on wasteful spending and finite resources to grow, and growth is necessary at all costs. I've been wanting to do this episode on generative AI and large language models for a while now, but so many of them are popping up and so quickly, it's kind of hard to keep up. Most people know OpenAI's ChatGPT, xAI's Grok, and Google's Gemini, but there are so many other models out there. I'm a legal researcher and I was trained to use LexisNexis Protégé and Westlaw's Co-Counsel, both of which are specific to legal research. But there are three smaller, less-known models I would like to focus on for their potential to be private, sustainable, and open source. That's Mistral's Magistral Small, Meta's Llama, and Proton's Lumo. But first, I'm going to play this clip that explains what generative AI is. This is from the Royal Institution, the Turing Lectures with Mariella Lapata.
Generative AI is not a new concept. It's been around for a while. So how many of you have used or are familiar with Google Translate? Can I see a show of hands? Right. So it's been around for 17 years. And we've all been using it. And this is an example of generative AI. Greek text comes in. I'm Greek, so, pay some dues to the... Right, so Greek text comes in. English text comes out. And Google Translate has served us very well for all these years, and nobody was making a fuss. Another example is Siri on the phone. Again, Siri launched 2011, 12 years ago. And it was a sensation back then. It is another example of generative AI. We can ask Siri to set alarms, and Siri talks back, and oh, how great it is, and then you can ask about your alarms and whatnot. This is generative AI. Again, it's not as sophisticated as ChatGPT, but it was there. We are all familiar with that. And of course, later on, there was Amazon Alexa and so on. Okay. Again, generative AI is not a new concept. It is everywhere. It is part of your phone. The completion, when you're sending an email or when you're sending a text, the phone attempts to complete your sentences, attempts to think like you, and it saves you time, right? Because some of the completions are there. The same with Google. When you're trying to type, it tries to guess what your search term is. This is an example of language modeling. We'll hear a lot about language modeling in this talk. So basically, we're making predictions of what the continuations are going to be. So the question is, what is the fuss? What happened? So in 2023, OpenAI, which is a company, it announced GPT-4, and it claimed that it can beat 90% of humans on the SAT, For those of you who don't know, SAT is a standardized test that American school children have to take to enter university. It's an admissions test. And it's multiple choice, and it's considered not so easy. So GPT-4 can do it. They also claimed that it can get top marks in law, medical exams, and other exams. They have a whole suite of things that they claim, they show that GPT-4 can do it.
Now, I'm not an expert by any means, but like I mentioned, I use AI a lot in my work, and I think there's potential for generative AI as a research tool. Right now, it's not reliable enough to trust it to do the research itself, but it is highly efficient at sorting through data and documentation. For example, if I am searching for specific statutes or case law, AI search tools can help me find exactly what I'm looking for in a matter of seconds. And generative AI tools can explain to me why it returned those results so I can immediately decide what's useful and what's not without having to sort through hundreds of cases by hand. So for me, the most important parameters I look at when I'm considering AI software is the level of sustainability and the level of privacy you can expect as a user. Now, obviously, with any of the big LLMs, you can expect that you will have very little privacy and that they are environmentally damaging. xAI's Grok is one of the worst offenders, having built a supercomputer data center in South Memphis, a community that has been historically targeted by environmental racism. Residents have reported asthma attacks, their kids needing inhalers when they didn't before, older neighbors feeling short of breath when the turbines are running. They say they can also smell gas and chemicals, which makes them fear long-term damage. On the privacy side, OpenAI can use private chats to further train and fine-tune their models. That means everything we put into the chat, even sensitive information, could be used in this way. Even if anonymized, there's always a risk of the model repeating sensitive details it has seen. They also store logs on their servers for about a month, even if used in temporary mode, though they claim that access to them is extremely limited. There's also the issue of people not truly understanding what Gen AI LLMs are and how they should be used. Because people have used them to steal from artists and creatives and to generate work to be passed off as original, people are generally distrustful of AI and LLM usage. For example, there are a lot of students online that say they've been falsely accused of plagiarism. Professors who continually feed their students' papers into AI detection systems risk creating a harmful feedback loop. These detection tools learn from the data they receive, so when student work, whether it's human written or not, is added to that training set, the system may start treating normal writing patterns as AI-like. This is where you see people online saying they don't want to use the Oxford comma or the M-dash anymore. Because over time, this can inflate false positives and unfairly flag more students, especially those whose style resembles earlier flagged work. And beyond accuracy concerns, this practice also raises privacy issues since student writing may be stored and used to train algorithms without their consent. So many professors have no idea how this works and are just accusing students of plagiarism, which can ruin your academic career because a detector told them that they could possibly have cheated. So yeah, there are a lot of issues here, but I also think that we can mitigate those issues and do a lot of good, especially in the research space. One way we can do that is by training the models on specific and specialized data instead of attempting to inhale the entire 65 plus zettabytes of internet. We could build an entire research library from a single 250 gig flash drive, which I would argue is way more sustainable because it would not require a freshwater guzzling, exhaust emitting data center to do it. So Magistraw Small from Mistral AI is one of the most privacy-friendly open-weight models available today. Researchers and organizations can audit, fine-tune, and run the model without handing data to third-party providers. Sustainability is also a core advantage. It balances capability with efficiency. It could be quantized and run on a single high-end GPU or consumer hardware like a MacBook, and it has incredible Solarpunk potential. Its open Apache 2.0 license means communities can legally host and adapt it without fear of corporate lock-in. Because it's mid-sized and quantization-friendly, it can run on hardware that's attainable for grassroots collectives, co-ops, or community libraries. As an offline library, Magistral could serve as a multilingual research assistant in Solarpunk communities, providing access to knowledge and reasoning even offline. The sustainability also aligns really well because lower commute demands mean lower energy use, which could pair with solar-powered community servers. The ability to fine-tune locally also allows communities to embed their own ecological knowledge, oral histories, or local languages into the model, thus creating a living, evolving knowledge commons outside of centralized control. So when we look at Llama, we see that the greatest strength for Solarpunk use is scale and flexibility. Its smaller variants can run on modest hardware, making them accessible for community nodes, but the larger models could serve as regional hubs for offline knowledge, maybe shared between co-ops, universities, or eco-villages with more powerful infrastructure. The challenge here is licensing. Llama is a meta tool, and Meta's restrictions limit how freely Llama can be adapted and redistributed, which cuts against Solarpunk's ethos of autonomy and commons-based sharing. The sustainability is a bit more complicated because the larger models can be incredibly wasteful, but small models are efficient and can run on local renewable energy. Still, for research communities wanting deep access to scientific literature or multilingual translation offline, Llama could be used to build a library network if the licensing issues don't get in the way. And finally, Lumo is the least compatible with Solarpunk ideals, but it's the one that I've been experimenting with lately. It's still a hosted service, and it is entirely dependent on Proton. It was designed as a privacy-first productivity tool and can't really be used as a community-owned knowledge library. But I wanted to include it anyway because I think it has potential, and if Proton ever releases a self-hostable version or an open-weight foundation, it could be really useful. For now, though, I do recommend it for anyone who is interested in checking out LLM capabilities. According to their website, they do aim to be climate neutral by 2045, so do with that what you will. Last week, the Majority Report interviewed Ed Zitron, the host of the Better Offline podcast. Ed shared some of his views about where the industry is going, and I thought it was interesting enough to share. For context, Ed wrote an article titled Why Everyone is Losing Money on AI, and I'll link it below for everyone to check it out. While I think Ed has a much more cynical view of AI capabilities, I'm pretty sure my clients would prefer I take a few days researching their legal issue using Lexis or Westlaw rather than spending weeks poring over casebooks in law libraries. I was drawn to it because I think if these massive tech companies are losing out on AI and LLMs because they aren't profitable, I am hoping that the space opens up for more open source and community focused models taking center stage. Their loss is our gain. But anyway, here's the clip of Emma and Ed on the Majority Report.
I mean, that's what's been agonizing about this whole discussion is that so much of the AI discussion, even the guys going on podcasts to talk about how it's going to take over the world and be like robots. That's how great our product is. It could take over the world. Anyone want to invest? It's all been so much billions and billions of money that's gone into this and basically wasted because it could disappear, as you say, overnight because they cannot create right now a model that is profitable.
Well, it's not just the lack of profitability. It's not just the fact that these companies in general don't make much money. I mean, Perplexity, AI startup, search engine type company that has raised $300 million in the last 2 months, 2 separate rounds. They spent over 140% of their revenue last year just on compute. These companies do not function in the way that regular startups do and on an operational level. The whole point of cloud software, the whole reason that tech has its valuations is that these are asset-light businesses where the biggest costs are salespeople and customer service. Generally, infrastructure has not been a problem. It is insane, but tech has now taken on the burden of classical industrialization without any path out. And what's crazy is I did an article called Why Everybody's Losing Money on AI last week. It's not clear that even the people providing compute, as in the people building the data centers with the GPUs in them, are making any profit. And if they are, it's going to take years.
Thanks for listening to the 14th episode of Solarpunking. If you've enjoyed listening in so far, consider sharing this podcast with your friends and family members that you think would also like to join the movement. Also, consider leaving me a comment to let me know what you liked and didn't like. If you have excess funds, consider donating to the United Negro College Fund. As you may know, last week there were bomb threats targeting HBCUs in this country, a continuation of our history of anti-Black violence. You can visit their webpage at uncf.org to find out more. Also, please keep your heart on my beautiful state of Colorado. If I see any orgs supporting our students, I will shout them next week. Until then, stay hydrated and motivated. Peace.